Welcome, friends. Hey, today I want to talk to you about how clubhead design can maximize your distance, accuracy, and of course your playability. There's a lot of information here, and this is information you're not going to get anywhere else. You'll never find it on the internet or in a book, and you're definitely not going to get it from the golf industry. Plus, I want to debunk a few myths about clubhead design that you've heard over and over and over again. So, like I say, there's a lot of great information on there. You'll want to share this with your friends and also subscribe to the channel because we've got a lot more content like this coming your way. Thank you. Well, welcome back. First of all, I want to debunk a couple myths. Number one, new and improved. Every year, every brand comes out with their new, improved models, and they use fancy wording, a bunch of hyperbole, on and on and on and on. Believe me, it's all crap. The last time there was an innovative design in iron clubhead design is when Karsten Solheim came out with his first set of cavity-back pings back in the 60s. Prior to that, all irons were blades. I mean blades that nobody could hit. He came out with cavity-back design and has changed the golf industry overnight. So that's the last major innovative change that came through. Since then, it's nothing in marketing hype. And I'll give you an example. Going back to Ping. In the 70s, Ping came out with what was called their Ping I2 irons. Now, in my opinion, and the opinion of many, many golfers out there, Ping I2s were probably the best design Ping ever came out with, period. Now, saying that, what's true, they've had 40 plus, maybe 50 iterations since then, new and improved, year after year after year. They don't hold a candle to those Ping I2s. Now, this is true with every brand out there. If you think these brands out there spend all this money on design and development and coming up with innovative solutions, high technology, you're wrong. They spend all their money on marketing. The idea is to get you to buy over and over, year after year after year. If you just bought one set, never bought another set, all these brands would go out of business. We've never played that game. And I'll tell you why. We got the design right the first time, and we're not going to change that. That was 25 years ago when we first came out with our one irons. We're not changing that design in a million years, and we're certainly not going to come out with a bunch of marketing hype and say, speed golf, innovative, high core design, blah, blah, blah. It's all garbage. Don't listen to it. You're wasting your money. The second myth, which is a big myth, is to go out and buy a set of irons because that's what your favorite pro plays. Now, this is the biggest scam in any industry, but it's prominent in the golf industry. Number one, golfers make 90% of their money on endorsement contracts, not tournament wins. So what's true? A company waves some money in their face, and boom, they've got that pro on their team, so to speak. Now, what that pro plays and what you buy are two completely different things. Typically, they'll come up and they'll talk to a pro, and they'll say, yeah, I'm interested, I'll play. He'll go in, spend a couple weeks with the company, look over all the different lines of irons that they offer. He'll pick one. And from that point, the adjustments come. They'll change the loft angles, they'll change the lie angles, they change club head weight, they'll change bounce angle, sole and face grind, on and on, different shafting. In a number of cases, they actually change the grade of steel that the iron head is cast with. So at the end of the day, the only thing in common between what the pro plays and what you buy is just the name on the club. That's it. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with this, and I've got a lot of stories that I can give you as perfect examples of this, but I'm not going to do that today. The point is, don't ever buy a set of clubs just because your favorite pro endorses them. But anyway, those myths being debunked, and we'll come back and talk about that a little bit later. Those myths being debunked, let's go on and talk about the important pieces of iron clubhead design. And probably the most important piece out of all of this is center face. Well, it's called center face, it's called sweet spot, it's called center of gravity, so on and so forth. Watch here and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, this is how you determine the sweet spot on an iron club head. You basically balance the club head on a pin head. Now, when it's balanced like this, where that pin head is, That's the intersection of the vertical and the horizontal centers of gravity of that total club head. That is your sweet spot. Okay, so now after the balancing act, we've discovered the sweet spot, the intersection of the vertical, horizontal centers of gravity, that club head. Now you can see on the club head that green dot. That is our sweet spot. Now in all quality sets of golf clubs, you're going to find the sweet spot directly center face on that club head. Now it might be up or down a little bit, but the point is it's right in the center of that club face. That's true with every iron in your set if it's a quality set. If it's an inexpensive, cheap set, I mean, that center of gravity can be anywhere because those things are very cheaply made. I've got a video about that coming up. You'll want to watch it. But the center of gravity can be everywhere. It'll change with every club head in the set. So don't buy cheap. But anyway, quality set of irons, that's going to be right in the center. Now, it's a dot, as you just saw. Now, some companies come out and say, well, our clubs have an expanded sweet spot. Well, my friends, there's no such thing. The sweet spot is the pinhead, period. And here's the thing about that. If you hit the ball and you miss that sweet spot to the right or left, 1/4 of an inch, you just lost 5 yards and your accuracy goes down. If you miss it a 1/2 inch either way, you just lost 10 yards and you've got an offline shot. So it's imperative that you hit that sweet spot every time. A good way to check that, you can get impact decals, but the better way to do it is to get a thing of that Dr. Scholl's foot spray powder, spray it on the club face. It leaves this white powdery on there. When you hit the ball, you'll see exactly, where you typically hit it if you're hitting that sweet spot. And then you can just wipe it off with a damp towel. But here's the thing, if you want to maximize your distance and your accuracy, you have to consistently hit the sweet spot, center face. Okay, next up, I want to talk about the center of gravity of the club head. Now, the green dot, again, is our center of gravity. This is the static center of gravity of the club head. And just about every club head on the market is the same way. That center of gravity is going to be in the same spot or higher. Ours is typically a little bit lower than most. But what I did, I designed our club heads with a deep undercut rear cavity. And let me show you here with a Q-tip. And I might mention this is a professional Q-tip, not your average Q-tip. But anyway, you can see it's a deep undercut rear cavity with a bulge right here. That bulge, by the way, is a little extra weight right behind the sweet spot to give you that extra punch through impact. But anyway, what this does, and by the way, don't mind that cut on my finger. I did that the other day. I was slicing up pickles for a hamburger and I mistook my finger for a pickle, but it's fine, so don't worry about that. Here is the static center of gravity. However, with that deep undercut rear cavity, dynamically through impact, when you hit the ball, that moves the center of gravity not only down, but rearward, which again, that even makes the center of gravity on this club face lower. And that's very important because you want a low center of gravity. You don't want to be hitting line drives into a green. Excuse me, I'm just putting a Band-Aid on my finger. Give me just a second. All right, so talked about the static center of gravity of a club head, sweet spot, solid face contact, so on and so forth. Now, here's what's very important about the sweet spot in the low center of gravity. On this particular club head, you might not be able to see it from there. I'll bring it up closer. Okay, you see the dot that I had pointed out before. That's our center of gravity. That's our sweet spot. Now, in most golf clubs on the market, vast majority of them, the sweet spot is actually up here a little higher. That's the static sweet spot. Ours is lower than just about any other club heads on the market. Why do you want a lower center of gravity? And I'll tell you why. When you hit a golf ball and you've got a high center of gravity, when you come down into the ball, you're hitting the ball with the sweet spot above the ball's equator. Where's the force going? It's going down into the ball. You want a very low center of gravity, so when you hit the ball, the center of gravity is actually below the equator of the golf ball. That's what shoots that golf ball in the air and carries forever. You miss the sweet spot in any direction, you're going to have trouble. Now here's where the problems of conventional irons come in. A conventional iron, of course, they're all different lengths. You got your long iron, short iron, so on and so forth, different lie angles. You need a different ball position, different swing plane. With the longer irons, you have a flatter swing plane than you do with your short irons, which is a much more upright swing plane. So realistically, what are your chances of consistently making center point contact, sweet spot contact? And the answer is, your chances doing that consistently are practically zero. Typically speaking, the average golfer, he'll get out there and say with his mid-irons. His mid-irons, he might make pretty consistent sweet spot contact. But as the clubs get progressively longer, he will start missing them incrementally toward the toe. Until he gets up to the 3-iron, he's hitting it way out here someplace. Now conversely, once he gets to below the mid-irons, he gets down to the 9-iron, the pitching wedge, then they tend to incrementally hit the ball toward the heel. Now, in either case, you're going to lose distance and certainly lose accuracy. And that is one of the main reasons why 95% of golfers out there cannot hit a 3 or 4-iron to save their lives, because they're constantly hitting it toward the toe. They're getting zero distance and allows a very lousy shot. So you definitely want to have that low center of gravity. Here's another thing that goes along with that, and that's total club head weight. Now, in a conventional set of irons, the club heads are weighed differently. In other words, a 3-iron club head might weigh 242 grams. And then they progress. They increase in weight, 7 grams per club head until you get down to the pitching wedge. Now you got about 291 grams of club head weight. Now here's the funny thing about that. It's been proven over and over that the heavier the club head, the farther you're going to hit the ball. Now, of course, this is within certain limitations. You don't want a 5-pound club head on the end of your shaft. It's not going to do any good. But the point is, the heavier it is, the farther you're going to hit the ball. And the reason being is because of mass. You've got a greater mass cracking into that ball. A good analogy will be, you got a Volkswagen going 30 miles an hour, it hits a telephone pole. The Volkswagen bounces off. You've got a semi hits that telephone pole at 30 miles an hour, and you end up with a pile of splinters. That's the difference. You want that crushing force going in there. So you definitely want to have a little heavier. Now, like I say, in a conventional set of irons, you might have a 50-gram difference in club head weight between a 3-iron club head and a pitching wedge club head. Now, in our irons, single-length set of irons, obviously all the irons weigh exactly the same. And it's about the weight of a typical 7-iron. But our 3-iron club head, for instance, weighs about 31 grams more than a conventional 3-iron club head, and certainly has a much lower center of gravity than that conventional 3-iron club head. So consequently, you're hitting with more mass, you're getting a heck of a lot more pop, and you're going to hit it on the sweet spot consistently, get it up in the air. You might ask, well, what do you mean, get it up in the air? You want high trajectory. You do not want a boring trajectory with any iron in your bag. And the reason being is, you'll hit the green and it will shoot over the green by 10 yards. You want a high trajectory that's going to come into that green, hit, take 1 or 2 bounces, and stop. You want the higher trajectory. And don't get confused. When I say high trajectory, I'm not talking about you going out and ballooning a shot by scooping the ball or trying to lift it in the air and you get no distance or anything else. I'm talking about a well-struck shot. You don't want a boring trajectory or a low trajectory shot with any iron when you're approaching a green. Why? Because it'll hit the green and then take off for 10 yards. And we've all done it before. You hit the green and then you go to get your ball and it's 10 feet off the green. No, you want a high trajectory that's going to come down, land, take 1 or 2 bounces, and stop. Now don't think for in a second that you lose distance with a high trajectory shot, because the opposite is true. You hit the ball high, and you hit it on the sweet spot, you've got a complete trail. The sweet spot is the most stable part of that club head. So you hit it on the sweet spot, and you just transferred all of that force that you build up in your swing right down to the club head, and bam, with a low center of gravity, that ball takes off. That ball will carry forever. You will actually gain more distance with that high trajectory shot than you will with a low trajectory shot. Now, low trajectory shot's fine if you're hitting a driver, because who cares how far the thing's going to roll out? But when you're hitting an iron shot and you've got a rollout, there's no way to predict your distances. It's impossible. With a high trajectory shot, and when I talk about distances, all I'm interested in is carry distance. I hit an iron, I want to have a good feeling for exactly how that far that ball's going to carry, and when it lands, it's going to stop. I don't care about rollout. Okay, so I want to hit into a green, but don't get the idea that a high trajectory shot is a shorter shot. No, it'll actually give you more distance as it goes on. So we talked about the extra weight of our club heads as opposed to conventional club heads, 3, 4 irons and so on and so forth. Bear in mind, when we're talking about the added weight of our 3-iron club head, where's that weight? It's down here at the bottom of the club. That lowers the center of gravity of the 3 and 4 iron way down there. I mean, a typical 3 or 4 iron club head, the center of gravity is way up here. In other words, the static center of gravity equals the dynamic center of gravity. And like I showed you here, here's this dot, that's static center of gravity. But when I swing dynamically, that center of gravity moves way down. Why? Because of the deep undercut rear cavity. So dynamically, it has a lower center of gravity than the static center of gravity. Most club heads on the market have just that high center of gravity, static center of gravity, and that's it. So anyway, let me just run something by you. What's true? You want good club head design. Good club head design is going to maximize your potential for distance and accuracy, period. Number 2, you want to have a good swing. Well, if you've got a set of conventional irons, you're not going to have a consistent swing. They're all different lengths, different ball positions, different swing planes, different this, different that. Get rid of all those variables, go to single length play, where every swing with every club is identical. You never have to worry about that. Then, coupled with that, you've got an ideal club head design with low center of gravity, great perimeter weighting, deep undercut rear cavity with that extra weight right behind the center face of that club head. So you're going to crack the ball, transfer the majority of your energy into it. Believe me, you won't go wrong, and you'll thank me for this suggestion. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a common sense approach to better golf. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.